Today, I am delighted to have on Ayana Johnson from Johnson Legal PLLC. Ayana's firm is a woman-owned boutique that specializes in estate planning. She's dedicated to empowering clients to protect their families and their legacies. So let's dive in to how she makes complex legal matters approachable for everyone. One of the problems that I see most people face is understanding the differences between a power of attorney and a guardianship and choosing what the most suitable option is. And it can be complex and it can be confusing. Could you break down the major differences between the power of attorney and the guardianship?
Generally speaking, when we're talking about either power of attorneys or guardianships, what we're really talking about is someone's capacity. And when I say capacity, I mean in the legal sense. When we're talking about capacity means if I were to sit down across the table from you, could you tell me who you are, where you live, who your children are, what banks you have accounts with, who your mortgage company is? Can you really tell me kind of the basics that a person would need to know really in giving you any service as a person who is coming to a service provider? Oftentimes we see people slowing down in that they know who their mortgage company is, they just can't remember. Or if they could see their checkbook, they'd remember. That's when we're starting to have concerns about capacity. So if you have a power of attorney document that you put in place well before capacity became an issue, there is no need to go through guardianship. Because instead of going to the court and saying, this person doesn't have capacity, someone needs to be their decision maker, that person instead put together a document that said, if I am ever in a point where I don't have capacity or where I'm completely incapacitated, I appoint this person, Carolyn, to pay all my bills, to have access to all my finances, and then maybe you also name Carolyn or maybe a different family member to be your medical decision maker. And as long as you have those two power of attorney, what we call agents, or someone who would act on your behalf, as long as you have those two people listed in a legitimate power of attorney document, we don't have to go through guardianship. In the case where you don't have a power of attorney, however, we are looking at going through the guardianship process because you will need someone who can help you. Your mortgage company doesn't care that you are struggling with your mental health. They care about whether or not you are paying your bills. Pepco doesn't care about whether or not you're having an episode with your dementia. They will cut off your gas in the middle of the winter. Well, we can't have those kind of things happen. So oftentimes when people don't have a power of attorney, or maybe they've only named one person in their power of attorney and that person's passed away or they're not available, then we have to go through something known as guardianship, where we're going into the court system and saying, this person cannot handle their own affairs. They need someone appointed to handle their affairs for them. So oftentimes we're going through guardianship, we do have this interested person who is a loved one going to the court and saying they need help. But in some situations, we have people who aren't so well-intentioned, or we have people who are concerned about you who have no intention of actually stepping in as your power of attorney. Instead, they're asking the state to appoint an attorney or a fiduciary who doesn't know you to make those decisions for you. So the reason why people prefer power of attorneys, you can get as specific as you want. You can grant specific powers and not other powers. You pick exactly the person you want to make your decisions, and you forego that whole court process of guardianship. Oftentimes when we're going through guardianship, it's because no power of attorney was created or an insufficient power of attorney was created. That big reason why people like to avoid guardianship is you're losing some level of control when you pursue a guardianship because you have to go to the court. You have to prove that this person is incapacitated, and then you have to prove that you're the best choice to be the guardian, or the state will appoint someone. So a lot of folks like to avoid that because they also don't want to go to court and have it be public that they can't even handle getting out of bed on their own. They can't handle making their own meals. All of that goes into this public record. And again, some of us have nosy neighbors. Some of us have people that don't necessarily wish us well or would love to have you be the topic of gossip, and we just don't want to deal with that. So instead, we'll pursue a power of attorney and hopefully avoid guardianship.